you're on.
Okay, so as most of you guys are aware, my topic centers around the similarities between the leadership styles of Genghis Khan and Google, and I'm Pakhi. So basically, why Genghis Khan and Google, and why leadership? I think Genghis Khan and Google are so important in terms of the fact that they're both leaders in their fields, and they're both exceptions. They defied the odds to become some of the greatest world leaders that the world has seen ever. And leadership is a key aspect in both of their organizations. And what really fascinated me was that if I compare Google and Genghis Khan, like the time gap between the two, and then to find similarities between the two would be so cool. And I just had like a passion for history, and that's why I found Genghis Khan. And I wanted to relate it to something that was modern day, and which was Google. And why I chose leadership as an aspect of comparison is that leadership is a very important feature that helps organizations function in today's world, and is becoming increasingly more important as we see the world globalize and multicultural settings set in, interlocking together to make various organizations, companies, enterprises. Yeah. So my research question: to what extent do the leadership styles of Genghis Khan compared to those of Google? And the method that I'm going to be applying is qualitative meta-synthesis, which will be applied in order to find similarities between the two. And the qualitative materials that I'm using are books and peer-reviewed research papers. And the books include like Work Rules by Laszlo Bock, who is the senior head of human relations at Google, and John Mann, who's written a book about the leadership of Genghis Khan. And my peer-reviewed articles include my anchor paper, which is written by Joan D. Forsyth, and it talks about the lessons that we can learn from Genghis Khan in terms of management in today's world. And my paper that I'm choosing to emulate for the method is written by Standalowski, and also written by Barroso. So they kind of talk about the techniques in meta-synthesis, and therefore I'll be emulating those kind of techniques to further my paper. Those techniques include Venn diagrams, comparison charts, and basically like meta-synthesis is something that we've been doing all our lives. It's just a more scientific way of putting it, which is just collecting information and finding comparisons between two phenomenons. And there were ways in which I had to kind of like trials that I had to go through, which was the first trial was that are they even similar? And yeah, well, I chose leadership as a comparison for that very reason. And then the second trial was that I had to kind of work out the similarities between the two. And my key terms are flat approach, which is the sparse hierarchy between the topmost and lowest levels of management. Basically, there's no hierarchy, everyone's equal. And drive, which is I'm broadening the meaning of drive to encompass motivation, ambition, energy, and initiative. And organization, which is a group of people that work towards a similar goal. And leadership, which is something that is implemented by the leader to carry out his goals for the organization. So my thesis, I'm just going to read it. A key aspect of political and social matters, leadership is a vital feature that helps any organization function. And effective leadership is demonstrated by both Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and Genghis Khan, despite the stark difference in organization types. And surprisingly, however, they both use or have used similar techniques in governing the groups of people. And by comparing these two phenomenons, one can see that adeptly heading an organization isn't as challenging as some may have thought. In fact, these ways of leadership present an accessible solution to an increasingly common dilemma. And my findings. So basically, the toughest part for me was finding the means of similarities. And initially, I had planned to do it only based on leadership styles, but then as I read more and I researched more, I found out that in order to have a successful leadership style, you must have a successful leader. And so my first part of the organization would be what makes a good leader. And I kind of want to compare on the fronts that Genghis Khan and Google and how they're similar. So the controllable factors that I got from Kirkpatrick and Locke's paper was that it's leadership motivation, which is basically having no ambitions for gaining power. So power is basically not the end goal. However, it's to veer the organization in a direction in which the total goal would be to help society. And drive and risk taking. And then the uncontrollable factors, which I found in John Lang's book, The Leadership Styles of Genghis Khan, is that you have to be the right person at the right time. So like Genghis Khan, for example, was there at the right time. He had the qualities, he had everything, and the circumstances were such that he was able to unite the people. And Google as well. I mean, back when Google was founded, the web was just starting up, and therefore Google is kind of like was in the right position to do something to unite the world on a common front, which was communication. And my second part would be comparing them through leadership style, which my first comparison would be instilling motivation through purpose. So I'll go through the techniques of how they motivate their people, what their common purpose was, challenges, etc. And then the other one I'm kind of still deciding on one as my research goes on. And so why is this significant in today's world? So basically my main purpose is to show that a leadership style isn't restricted to just a single type of organization, as can be seen because like Genghis Khan had an empire, Google is a multinational enterprise. And by comparing these two world leaders, the properties of leadership, they usually enhanced. And again, like I had said before, in a world wherein like globalization is gaining front and everything, more and more enterprises are developing, and they need a leadership style in which to focus on. And I believe that if I compare these two leadership styles and I kind of come up with the leadership properties that are most important in an organization, then it could help newer enterprises. And yeah, that was it.
Thanks, Pakhi.
Thank you.
And thanks for rushing through that after the bell ring. Everybody can just hand questions. Anybody have anything specific? Really quick. Pakhi, just really quick for me, and I'll really
my only time.
What are your limitations when you're talking about Genghis Khan and Google? You probably have to address that.
For my limitations, basically, I think my biggest limitation is comparing an empire and a company. I think there's a lot of differences that I have to account for, which is like, I mean, an empire has a government, it has a political structure, whereas a company is not as much of a political structure.
Right.
It's more of a corporate style. So that's, I think, my main limitation. Other limitations would be like research on Genghis Khan. I mean, it's limited, and I have to deal with the research that I get.
Yeah.